Just need to maximize. Okay. Hello, good morning. My name is Andrew Holz, as Daniel said, and I'm here to talk to you. The title of my talk is, I'm a manager on minimum viable process. In the startup world, a lot of times MVP meant minimum viable product, so I'm kind of stealing that to talk about minimum viable process. So before I kind of get into the topic, I'd like to just introduce myself just a little bit and say, hey, why oops? What is that oops in your title? That's a little odd, right? So currently I am head of engineering for open source. I have the privilege of working with some amazing teams, the Shiny team, the Cordo team, MLverse team, newly emerging Tiny Tools team, and it's been great. But if we scroll the calendar back 25, a little more than that years, I was at Bell Labs, second job out of school. I was working with GIS data in the loop surveillance department, having a good time doing that. But things change at big companies, situations change, and they decided to spin out several of the products in that department. A bunch of senior devs were taking over that stuff, starting a company to do it, and they recruited me to join along. So I was excited. Joined them, about a dozen engineers, as I said, like some grizzled, experienced folks, 5, 10, 15, 20 years more experience than I had. And then they started organizing things, and I was kind of continuing on my data stuff and playing around with Oracle, good times. And there was like, we need to get a little more organized, and we need to do a little bit of this management function. And pretty much all the other engineers that were there took a big step back, like, management, no, not for me, no, thank you. And I was like, well, I have a psych major that went with my CS degree. Hey, maybe I could do that stuff. So I stepped into that. We built the company up. I got to do a whole kinds of crazy stuff, maybe earlier than I should have, but it was a great experience. We sold the company, $20 million. And ever since then, it's been great. I've been doing various technical leadership roles at small companies, my own startups, other people's, bigger companies, all on the way. And it's been a great journey. One of the big things I learned during that journey is I absolutely love helping other people level up and find those people that are looking to be a force multiplier, that are part of the team, that understand the context and want to help the team do its best work, be a multiplier for other people on the team. So really enjoy that. I'm here to talk to you today with that in mind, and to talk a little bit about ways you might get into that. Thinking back to some of the other folks that had spoken earlier, essentially this is about exploring, is that niche of leadership and helping the team do their best work a niche that's good for you? Maybe you're already on it. I oopsed my way into management and have really enjoyed it. Maybe you're considering it. Maybe you've already been oopsed. Hopefully this is a little way to help kind of get that all started. So in my personal experience and things I've observed, a lot of leadership, you started doing it, you were interested, you were helping out, and then it becomes your role over time. You actually do the job partially before you get the job. So battlefield promotions, it's not so planned. You can kind of back into it, but very few organizations give people much support. So this is just a little taste of that and some of the other things here. It's exciting that you're all here to talk about it and hopefully are considering that kind of an opportunity. And then frankly, a lot of leadership training can be really dry and takes itself so seriously. So Dr. Seuss, a little bit cheeky, that's what I'm going for here. We'll see how it all plays out. Okay, let's get on to the topic at hand. Minimum viable process. Let's take those in the reverse order and talk a little bit about each of those words, right? So process is just how shit gets done. That's like the overall, we have to be effective. We have some needs. We do some stuff. We deliver out some results. Hopefully the organization's happy with it. It also needs to be viable, right? Big word there. Obviously, it means effective in those steps that we're taking to get stuff done. But I think it also implies, really importantly, sustainable. If you don't have a sustainable process in that minimum process, you're going to burn people out. You're going to frustrate a lot of people. Your stakeholders aren't going to be very happy. So we got to just make sure it's not just viable, effective, but also viable, sustainable. So something to keep in mind as we're talking about our high-level process. And then really the biggest word here, I think, is minimal. As someone that's been in process for a long time, I actually find that too much process actually chokes things, and you're actually looking for that sweet spot where it's enough process to keep people organized, coordinating well, whether that's outside teams or within your team, but not so much that it's actually like a lot of waste happening, a lot of friction, and a lot of the meetings feel bad and all that kind of stuff. So we're looking to do a minimal process to give the team the room to do their best work. And the more we weigh them down, the harder time that's going to be to do. So we're looking for minimal, but still viable for our process. Okay, everybody's process is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to use a lot of Agile terminology. Hopefully folks are familiar. It's kind of the most standard one. There's a big question about little a Agile and being flexible, and big A Agile, which turns into Scrum and SAFe and all these big ones. I really mean the little a Agile. But let's distill down a hypothetical, very high-level process, and one that kind of applies to everything and is really focused on handoff points. In my experience, we're just coming off the Olympics. It's handoffs between people and groups where friction and pain and mistakes happen a lot. So we're going to talk about our high-level process, mostly focused on those handoff points, because some of the, am I building a pipeline? Am I building a model? Am I delivering this report? There's a lot of details that, aren't as important and kind of get more focus, whereas I think some of these handoff points can be more important. So first step is just gathering, right? What do we actually need to do? What do we actually need to do? Then we're doing the shit, we're getting the stuff done, all that details, building things, testing things, delivering things, and then delivering things, and deliver profit. For South Park fans out there, the underpants gnomes had it, right? You deliver, you get your profit, everybody's happy. So we're going to break down each of these steps just a little bit, thinking about the friction part, the what can go wrong, when does it feel bad, and like saying, hey, is there ways to make that more minimal, to give the team room to breathe, do their best work? Okay, so we're in the gathering step, right? We have stakeholders. Some of them are maybe obvious and noisy and close and demanding, but some of them may be really important and further away. So, management may have some ideas, probably usually do. They're funding a group. They want certain things to happen, but maybe it's users, maybe it's a different analyst group. There can be a lot of different stakeholders, and it's really important to think about who those stakeholders are. How are you getting input from that particular stakeholder, and are you getting it at the right level of granularity, right? So if someone's further away, you really want to ask them for missions. You don't want them detailing exactly what they want, but rather what are they trying to accomplish? And then the closer they are to your process and your team and your results, the more involved they can be in the details. So again, sometimes friction is a misunderstanding about what needs to get delivered, changing the order of what's the most important things. Most teams have too much going on, and so it's important to kind of order those things properly. But if you're looking at stakeholders, the level of detail, how close they are, and you're pushing up the mission, right? You're making it a little more abstract and giving the team room to decide how to do it, you're going to get your best results. So again, you want to get the detail to match where it's coming from and give the team room to figure it out. The people closest to the problem, as much room as you can afford to give them to make good decisions, be effective about it, make the hard trade-offs in the trenches that really promote effectiveness. So along the way, I have a bunch of QR codes here. For me, leadership is like lots of little lessons, and then you practice, and then you get a few more. So this will be up on GitHub. You can find these, but along the way, I put up a ton of QR codes. Maybe, if you get a few of them along the way, a nibble here and there will serve you well. So a quick story. I'm working with the Shiny team. I joined a little over 2 years ago, and we actually had a problem in this area. We were practicing, and it was really Joe Chang. Joe Chang was practicing a guilt-driven development. He had his process reflect what he thought he was supposed to do and what a very traditional QA person was telling him he was supposed to do, right? So it was, stories of a certain type and lots of steps on the Kanban process and lots of acceptance things having to happen. And frankly, it was frustrating the team. It really wasn't working well. They were feeling like it was a lot of time wasting. The Shiny team is blessed with a lot of really senior folks that are serving themselves. They kind of know what needs to happen. So the best thing to give them was a high-level feature. Let them figure out how to deliver it, what it is, interact with others on the team to refine it, and then own the QA process, the quality process, and then pull in some help when they need it. So a little non-traditional. And as we switch to that, and Karan joined the team, he's been an amazing QA person. He gets pulled in, is flexible. We'll figure it out with them, not asking for a ton of documentation up front. The team has really sped up been happier, and it's been working out really, really well. So we've made some really good progress on that front. We got to keep going. I have too much content, so let's go. The next step, the doing. I don't want to get into the details of the doing. You all know what the doing looks like on your team in the actual activities, but we can think about how do we organize it in a way that helps the team do their best work. And I think one of the ways to do that is to make as much space as you can get away with in your context. So what is that? That's for the who. You don't want the same person doing the work again and again and again and being stuck in a niche, because they're going to feel stifled, and you're not going to have redundancy. If they're not available, what happens to that? So even if it's not the most efficient in the moment, in the big picture, by giving space for who, you're going to actually help the team. Your process is going to help the team be healthier, deliver better, be happier. And happy teams get 3, 5, 10 times more done than ones that are frustrated. We also want to make room in the what and the how. We don't want to dictate. I'm a huge fan of pairing on stuff. A lot of data says more gets done, higher quality, people learn, but not everybody wants to do that. So again, we want to give the team as much room as we can and not dictate how they're going to do. And I already talked about that idea of features at the right level where they have room to make decisions and do the best results. So that's some of the doing aspects of it. The other kind of a friction that I commonly see is meeting dread, where you have that meeting on your schedule, you see it tomorrow, and you're like, oh gosh, I have to survive another one of those. Okay, that's a pretty good sign that there's friction, that there's bad things happening. So if you're in charge of that, or even if you're not, and you're just kind of interested in helping the team get better, it's really important to think about the meeting's purpose, the frequency it happens, and really who needs to be there. Sometimes new meetings start, lots of people feel left out, they want to join. The bigger the meeting, the less likely it is to be effective. And it's something to really keep in mind on that front. So again, we're coordinating in this step. That's where a lot of the friction is going to come, those handoffs, that coordination, the getting on the same page. So one other little shiny story on this one. We were doing our guilt-driven development. We had dailies every day. It was 8 people on the team at that point. It's gone up and down a little bit. It was too much. Everybody was bored. 8 people is too much to know what's going on with that many people. So everybody's just waiting their turn, spewing out what they tried to do yesterday. They would start to feel similar day after day, doing bigger tasks. So it really was not working. There was a lot of friction on it. We started by first separating into 2 sub-teams. You can kind of track what's going on with 4 people. It's a little more reasonable. You can get some context, understand what's up. But now we've even kind of pushed past that, and we've decided to try and do it with context pairs. So a senior dev, a Carson, a Barry grabs like, hey, this is the feature for the next release. I'm the lead on it. And we add a second person as the context partner on it. So they are there for like code reviews, for brainstorming, for working together on it. So you want 2 people. You don't want just one person responsible, but you don't need 4 people all pretending they understand all the nuances and what's going on and why all the trade-offs were made. So that's been working pretty well, but that's something that we're in progress on. So delivery. Not going to say too much about this. Obviously, you need to ship whatever ship means for you into that pipeline, that R package, that report. But there's other aspects, and Alan had kind of referred to some of those, of beyond just what did I ship, is actually thinking back to the stakeholders and involving them and doing a little bit of storytelling. And this is an area really often neglected. And by spending a little time saying, this is what we delivered, this is why, and if there was a problem and this was the problem, you can really pull those stakeholders in. They can see the value. The team can feel really good about what they're accomplishing, not just ship, and then think about it from there. So it's something, it's also really interesting to me because this is an area that's exciting because one person, like a lot of those other steps I'm talking about, involve a lot of coordination, a lot of changes. It can be challenging to do, but in this idea of delivering and then doing a little work around the delivery to make sure stakeholders are with you and they understand what's up, spoken in their language and at the right level of granularity for them, that's really powerful. You can do that. And you don't have to be the formal manager. I don't know of any manager, I certainly wouldn't be one of them, of if someone on the team was like, hey, I think a little bit of a summary of what we shipped in that last one, but that's set well for this exec team or this outside user group would go a long way. That's going to be embraced. So a little effort, you can improve the process. And I think that's a great way to explore if this whole leadership, organizational kind of thing calls for you, to you. Okay, I need to hurry up. So again, we have our process. You have more details in it, but I talked about the abstract one. You have to accept that there is no right process. The people, the situation, what you're trying to do, it's a moving target, and we want to play along with that moving target and try things. We're going to do that as a group activity. We're going to decide together where the pain and the friction is and what we might want to be able to do about it. And then we're going to formulate experiments. We don't know what will work better. We're going to theorize something, try something, and then repeat that over and over and over, and slowly, continuous improvement, get better over time. So just to kind of put this in a little bit agile terms, maybe this is something people know about, but hopefully you're doing retrospectives, right? So you're looking back, kind of what worked in this release, what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, what could we do better, bad, sad, glad. Some of those retros that are kind of standard ones, standard retrospectives, could get a little stale. So I'm going to say, be cheeky, do one that's very directed. We want to make the process work for the team. So you're going to come out and ask them, which part of our process kills your soul the most? And if you get those answers, you know where the friction is, and you have something that, okay, like let's talk about that. What possibly dumbass way could it be a little bit less crappy, right? We're not going to fix it all at once. We're going to do a little experiment. So how can we do that? And then, hey, let's take that vague idea of like, oh, it'd be better if, and say, here's an experiment. Here's something to try. Let's give that a shot. Let's see how that goes. So we're going to do a couple of little experiments. We're not going to have too many going on at once, and we're going to find our way towards a better process over time. If you need a little more structure than that, you can try the popcorn method. Claudio Peroni, it kind of came up with it. It's a big Kanban board. There's 7 lanes that you go through. The first 3 we really talked about, problems and observations. What are options to fix it? What are possible experiments you could try and do? And then the core really just takes you to the commit and ongoing and reviewing and kind of keeping that train going. So, great, more work. We have to work on our process too. It's not enough that we have too much to deliver. There's so many excuses for reasons not to do this. I'm gonna run through a few and then we can wrap up here. So, the biggest one I always hear is, it's not us. It's not us that are causing the problem, it's them. And it kind of doesn't matter who the them is, but it's them, it's their problem. Well, guess what then? Time to work together, collaborate, and you're gonna do your POP. What's killing your soul? What could we do better? What experiments with them in the room? They're part of your process. Pull in the right key people, and you can really make progress on that. Not them. Make it about us and get the us in the room. We don't have time for this. We're overloaded. Well, if you stick to a process and you don't give more visibility into what's going on to the people that need it, you're going to just get worse over time. You're going to burn people out. You're not going to make progress. Hey, we already tried fixing this. We tried these other things. We had process improvement before. Get over it. Well, the fact of the matter is, failing, you may have failed. You may have tried it, but you need to learn from it. Was it a bad idea? Was it too ambitious? Was it a lack of follow-through? You got to learn from those things and improve. So just the fact that something didn't work out once before doesn't mean you give up. And then, management won't let us. They make us follow some elaborate scheme. They bring in experts and consultants and they dictate it. Well, don't disempower you and your team. If you're doing some experimenting, if you're trying to make things better, there's no management team that's going to say, don't do that. You start within the strictures they set and you make progress. And by the way, just don't ask for permission. Just try it, tweak things. It'll get better. The results will pay for itself. It'll be good. Okay. This is the Agile process, the Agile Manifesto specifically. If you look through it, I think you'll see a lot of the kind of themes I'm hitting on, individuals and interactions. Working software, we can say a working process, customer collaboration. I really think in this case, it's stakeholder collaboration, and then responding to change, right? So this is really Agile. This is the heart of it, and applying it to your process can be great. So again, channeling my Dr. Seuss, repeating that same idea that I'm asking you all to try. In a lively hub where ideas fly and dart, the team map their processes, each playing their part. Keep it all light. Let's empower and grow, yet ensure that our output has value to show. They tweaked and they tested, and with agility played, finding new ways for their efforts could sway. From shadows of old, they emerged step by step, their process now streamlined, efficient, and light. So thank you all so much. Please reach out if you're on this journey or even thinking about it, And here's some resources that I just love and have used, gone back to over and over. Thank you very much.
All right. We were exactly on time. I just wanted to remind everyone that there is a Discord server where if you want to continue the conversation, you can. Before Andrew steps away, there was one question from Discord and everyone wants to know, where did you get the pictures from?
Oh, just playing with Midjourney. It turns out it's pretty good at doing that. A little bit of Dr. Seuss, and you have to use Midjourney, by the way, because Dali will say, oh, you can't say Dr. Seuss. That's like protected. So Midjourney, but it was fun, and I probably spent too much time on that, but